Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to CT Talks, Episode 7, Women's Empowerment. I'm Laura Estrada Adams, Strategic Communications and Outreach Coordinator for our team in Caltrans, headquarters in Sacramento. It's such an honor to be here today, wrapping up Women's History Month with our amazing lineup of guest speakers. To our audience, whether you're a returning viewer or this is your first time joining CT Talks, Harry and I are excited to have you here. In case you're not able to stay very long today, no worries. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with a recorded link afterwards, so keep your eye out for that. During the webinar, we encourage you to put out questions into the chat, and Harry and I will be pausing throughout the webinar to pass those questions along to our guests. And feel free to use some of those emojis and show some love for our guests. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Harriet.
Thanks, Laura. Yes, still morning. I'm like, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. As Laura said, we're honored to bring you this topic today to wrap up Women's History Month, women's empowerment. So thank you all for tuning in, and thank you to our amazing panelists for joining us today. You guys are what makes this as magical as it's going to be. So what are we going to cover today? We have 4 wonderful panelists that we're going to introduce you to in just a moment. You will have your opportunity to hear from their experiences and their insights as it pertains to women's empowerment, and you're going to get to ask your burning questions. So as Laura said, throw your questions in the chat throughout, and we'll be pausing to get to those. And one of the biggest things, this is about empowerment. We love to see all the love coming from the chat. So thank you for those of you putting the hearts and the high fives and the claps. Please feel free to do that throughout. It makes us all feel really good. Everyone's a little bit nervous, so it helps us to shake out the nerves and just feel really supported. So at any point you're feeling the love, feel free to, here we go. Feel free to throw out the love on the emojis. We love to see it. So thank you so much. And especially with a topic like empowerment, you all are empowering us to give our best today. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So who are these phenomenal panelists, you might ask? We have today Christy Connors, Zulema Balderas Padilla, Ryan Hudson, and Kim Jenkins. Say hello, ladies. Hello. Thank you so much for being here with us today. You all come from such different backgrounds to bring such amazing insights to this topic of women's empowerment. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Laura to get us started with our biographies.
First, I'm pleased to announce Christy Connors. Christy is the District 8 Deputy District Director for Construction in the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans. As a construction deputy, Christy oversees the project delivery and construction administration activities of approximately 300 staff working approximately 80 projects totaling $1.5 billion. Christy is a licensed civil engineer and project management professional and has been with Caltrans for 32 years, serving in several engineering and management positions. After graduating from Virginia Tech with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, Christy accepted a position in Bishop, California as an entry-level civil engineer, where she completed the Caltransportation program. Christy later transferred to District 8, where she became the Deputy District Director for Design in 2008 and was appointed to the Construction Deputy position in 2019. Thank you so much for joining us today, Christy.
Thank you. And can I just say, the emoji love that we're experiencing in this webinar is like more than I've seen. So thank you. Everyone's taking empowerment really seriously today, and I love to see it. So next, I have the honor of introducing Zulema Balderas Padilla. She began her career with Caltrans in 2014 as a trainer in our Equal Employment Opportunity Program. She obtained her Master's of Science in Counseling with an emphasis in career development from California State University, Sacramento, and in 2017 joined the Division of Human Resources. As an analyst, she held roles in classification and hiring, recruitment, and workforce planning, and proudly established the Caltrans Career Development Program. With her comprehensive educational background and diverse work experience, she promoted to branch chief in the Office of Talent Management in 2020, overseeing workforce planning, employee engagement, and career development. In 2023, she promoted to Office Chief of Workforce Development, leading the offices of Learning and Development and Talent Management. Zulema's approach to her work is characterized by compassion and positivity. She firmly believes in the power of empowering others and encourages them to take charge of their career path. Outside of work, you can find Zulema attending a Sacramento Kings game, Light the Beam, a dance class, music events, and most importantly, spending time with her family and friends. Welcome, Zulema. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. So next up, we have Ryan Hudson. Ryan Hudson graduated from California State University, Los Angeles, with a degree in civil engineering and a minor in Pan-African Studies. While in school, Ryan volunteered with the engineering department, MESA, and student organizations such as National Society of Black Engineers and American Society of Civil Engineers. She held multiple internships while in school, including California Department of Transportation, Oregon Department of Transportation, Jacobs Engineering, and City of Los Angeles. After graduating Cal State LA, Ryan worked full-time as a plan check engineer before coming back to Caltrans as a transportation engineer. Ryan just completed her 2+ year rotation program where she learned from multiple units, including design, project management, construction, and permits. She continues to volunteer and do outreach with Caltrans. In her spare time, she enjoys hanging out with friends and family, watching sports, and spending time outside. Let's give a hand up for Ryan. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Lastly, I get to introduce Kim Jenkins. So Kim graduated from California State University, Chico, with a Bachelor of Science in Administration with Management Information Systems. While in school, she participated in the Minority Engineering Program, which helped her obtain internships with HP and PG&E. Before moving to the Sacramento area, she worked as a senior developer at various financial institutions, including Bank of America Securities, Franklin Templeton, and Household Credit Services. She began managing in 2021, first at the County of Sacramento with over 5 years, before becoming a manager at Caltrans. Currently, she is Chief of IT Operations in District 4, which is our Bay Area, where she manages 3 direct report supervisors with 33 rank-and-file employees. She supports a very diverse Bay Area district with over 3,000 employees. She also proudly chairs the IT's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. Welcome, Kim. We're so looking forward to hearing from you today.
Thank you.
So as you can see, we've got a wonderful lineup of panels for you today, and the emoji love keeps happening throughout, and I'm loving it. So we wanted to share just a couple of not so recent, but somewhat recent images from each of our panelists. And here you can see Christy attended the 4th annual Women in Construction event. Ryan was at the NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers National Conference. Kim Jenkins participated in some of our LinkedIn outreach with giving some career tips for those looking for a career at Caltrans. And Sulema Balderas-Padilla was here at the AASHTO conference, the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. Sulema, did I get that right? I always get that one wrong. Maybe. Presented at the conference last year with about career development, among many other things. So it's an honor to have all 4 of you here today. And with that, let's get going with our first question.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question. What are some of the things that you're doing to empower other women? And I'm going to go ahead and start off with Christy. I know in previous conversations, Christy, you kind of spoke to the Women in Construction event recently for project delivery. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Thank you, Laura. So as was mentioned, I've been in my position for 5 years as the construction deputy. And for 4 of those years, I've hosted a Women in Construction event in honor of Women's History Month. So this event is open to all of my employees in the construction division, but the focus is primarily on women's empowerment. So we bring this tremendous group of women together for networking opportunities. We talk about significant achievements by women throughout history. And then we also bring in speakers. So we've had construction industry speakers like Mary Teichert from Teichert Incorporated. And most recently, we brought in our chief engineer from Caltrans, Donna Berry. So we try to inspire, encourage our employees, and ultimately the goal is to retain them in the construction division and hopefully support and attract more women to this industry and our division. So that's one of the things that I've been doing here in District 8.
That's amazing. Sounds like an outstanding event. I'm sure everybody looks forward to attending. It just sounds just so encouraging to network with all these women and just be a role model for the others, just opening the door for them. All right, so I think I'm going to go over to Kim next. I think we have some previous conversations with you, Kim, too, that you wanted to spotlight on this question.
Yes, I think one of the things that I'm doing to empower women is recently, well, about a year ago, we started in IT. We're concentrating on people first. And under that, we have a DEI, which is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion task force. So that task force is focusing on all employees. We want all employees to feel inclusive, but we're also looking at some of the statistics. As all of you probably know, we don't have very many women in IT, and in particular women of color. So we are taking a look at those statistics and coming up with metrics to see how we can improve our standings in those areas.
Sounds amazing. So anybody else on the panel would like to chance to speak to this, of like what you're doing to empower their women? Dilemma or Ryan?
Sure, a little bit. I think, in general, when I'm having conversations, just normalizing things for people and just uplifting and being there and being vulnerable in spaces that maybe sometimes we're not supposed to be vulnerable in. And I think I try to, anything that we're doing, anything that we're talking, anything that we're presenting on, anything that we're bringing forward is just coming from that place of empowering people and helping women see and break down some irrational career beliefs that they might have for themselves, and just shattering those stereotypes and just normalizing that, change or career or whatever it is that you do can be hard and challenging, but at the same time, we all go there, we all been there, and hopefully you can see in just this panel, you have plenty of women who can set the example for you of breaking down barriers and breaking down stereotypes and just being these epic leaders and people stepping into their true selves. So I think that's part of what I try to bring, is just normalizing those conversations and bringing people like our panel even today, right, to light.
Mhm.
I love that. Just like normalizing and embracing the change and the challenges and seeing the other women that are currently doing it. That's great. How about for you, Ryan?
100% with what everybody else on the panel said. As long as we can go out and really show that being women in engineering, or even in an engineering field type work, if you're not doing engineering per se directly, it's normal to see that. So whenever I go out to help do recruiting, I love to tell the students, especially the few women that are in the classes, I'm not the only woman that I see in my office. And, it's great to see so many women like Christy who have that higher role, and they're women. So I definitely like to encourage students, just apply. You're not going to be the only one there. And Caltrans is such a great place to really show that off, because we do have so many deputies who are women. And I can easily say, like, our chief engineer is a woman, and so many things have opened up for us, and there are so many other women to look up to all throughout the state, and they're all willing to give you any type of advice or anything like that. So it's a really great place to be a part of, and I really try to express that when I'm talking to people, that I feel very comfortable where I'm at, because if I'm ever having a bad day, I can always go to one of the other women engineers, or someone who's not directly in engineering but works for Caltrans, and definitely bounce ideas off and get advice from.
That's great. I think it's important, like you're mentioning, Ryan, you're out in the community, traveling out there as an engineer, but also recruiting. And, representation does matter. You're a female engineer, you're speaking with any of the other females, kind of empowering them to explore these careers, but also able to point to other females that and women in this industry that are here for you at Caltrans, that are supporting you through this. So that's absolutely amazing. All right, great. So we're going to head over to question number 2 with Harriet. I think you're on mute,
I
Harriet.
am on mute. Gosh, man. This day and age is unexcusable. So I'm just going to check the chat real quick. So this is an interesting question. If anyone would like to take this, how do you encourage your male counterpart to forge an allyship and promote the benefits of women leadership? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's great.
Speak now.
For some reason, I can't see all the questions. I don't know about the rest of the panel, but if you can say that one more time, Harriet.
Oh, yes, sorry. So how do you encourage your male counterpart to forge an allyship and promote the benefit of women leaders?
I'll just speak and say I think it's again having those conversations and helping people shift their perspective on what they think a woman in leadership is or does or could be. And I think both, right? Any gender or wherever you fall, non-binary, like I think everyone has something to offer, but I think bringing forth and helping people just shift their perspective on maybe some thoughts that they might have, whether it be cultural norms for them or their own life experiences that have taught them of what they believe a woman can or can't be, and really helping them just be you and being that evidence in their life that something exists, maybe from what they thought was norm, and leaning on each other's strengths. I think that would be something that I would encourage.
I love that. Thank you, Sulema. Yeah, just really seeing the person for their reputation and not just whatever you feel from your own bias perhaps coming through. So that's really powerful. And I mean, all I can say is we've got, I mean, we'll include ourselves. Why not? We're empowering each other. 6 wonderful women leaders right here today. So everyone in the audience is here supporting us, showcasing that no matter where you come from, what your background is, you're a leader in your own right. And so I think that's really a powerful message for today. But it's not to say that is an easy strive, right? So our next question is about challenges. So you're all in very different fields of work, right? And with that is going to come challenges as a woman in these fields. I know for a majority of you, the percentage of women versus men in the field is a big racial imbalance. So what challenges do you face or have you faced, and how have you overcome some of those obstacles? I'm going to start with Christy.
So, you know, I'll just speak in general terms, specific to the construction industry. And this was something that we talked about at our Women in Construction event, right? So we are very fortunate at Caltrans. We have many protections when it comes to pay equity. We are for sure being paid the same as our counterparts. So one of the challenges is while we're treated as equals in construction, it's very important that we also acknowledge and appreciate that we are different. So just to give you a quick example, you know, something as simple as personal protective equipment, like a safety vest. So when a woman starts in a field office, oftentimes they're handed a men's safety vest, which is much too large for them, right? It looks ridiculous. And in some instances, it could actually be a safety hazard, right, if it's too big and bulky. So it's important that we recognize that we are different. And I know there was a question I'm seeing in the chat about mothers, right? As women, we're mothers as well. And there may need to be accommodations in the field for expectant mothers, nursing mothers. So flexibility is important. We are equal, but we also need to be recognized and appreciated for our differences as well. So that's a huge challenge for women working in the field. And oftentimes it's a barrier. And it may be a reason why we are not being able to retain some of those new employees for those unfortunate experiences. And it's really important. And I know Ryan has rotated through construction, and, you know, she found a really great support system in the field, a buddy system that she could rely on. So I think that's, you know, a challenge that's unique to the construction industry and my division specifically.
Out into construction, I was lucky enough where I was in an office that was aware of the fact that I was a female going out into the field. And even the crew that I was out inspecting, they were aware of the fact, and they would tell me, don't go to the restroom at this specific gas station because there are some, wary people that hang out in the parking lot, or don't go over here because unfortunately there are homeless or unhoused people that hang out close to our job site. So I was fortunate enough to have that experience and to have, people in my office looking out for me. But like Christy said, all my equipment, my personal protective equipment is men's clothing. So it's big, it's bulky, and yes, it can create a hazard. I can get snagged on something easily. So my first thought was safety all the time. So walking out and having to, squeeze through something, don't get snagged, like make sure that I have my arms tight so nothing gets ripped or anything like that, and always keeping my head on a swivel. But luckily, I did have a good support system in my office, but that could also be few and far between. And hopefully, things are going to start to improve because we have amazing people like Christy who are in charge and are paving the way to make things a lot better for us.
Love it. And I know, Christy, with the Women in Construction event, I mean, it's creating a platform and a voice for these women to share these insights, right? Stuff that, wouldn't even think about that. It seems so common sense, right? And the safety element, Ryan, that you're speaking about, it seems so obvious, but you don't think about it. And yeah, it is more of a target, right? Being a woman. So really wonderful that these serious items are being brought up so that something can be done about it to hopefully improve for the future. So in a different route, Kim, yeah, I was looking at you, Kim, from the IT perspective. What do you have to add to this?
Yeah, the obstacles that I kind of face sometimes is being heard. So I feel sometimes like I have to sing for my supper. Hello, I'm here. Listen to me. I'm talking. So, and I also, one of the other obstacles that I come across is mansplaining. I don't know if you guys have heard that term before, but it's when men talk to you, explaining things to you that you already know. Men, stop that, please. So those are some of the obstacles I face in IT. It's just a matter of being heard, and sometimes we have to, get aggressive to make sure that people are listening to us.
Well, be aggressive anytime you want in this space, Kim. We want to hear from you. I love that you brought up mansplaining. And it's funny because it's not just men. It can be other personalities, right? No matter who can really speak over. So it's all about knowing your worth, standing up for yourself and being heard, because we know you have something good to say. So yeah, great insight to add to the conversation. Thank you, Kim. So Lama, what kind of challenges do you
I was just going to say, everyone, they're in fields where generally, the population of women is a lot smaller. And I'm in HR, so that's definitely a more female-dominated area. But I will say, just thinking of I think my journey, and I know a lot of people out there are listening from all realms, folks who aren't even not in Caltrans, and so I think my journey of being a first generation Mexican American, immigrant parents, and navigating the college system, for some of us that is a barrier and an obstacle, knowing what you need to do and how, and we don't have the ins and outs on you should do internships and externships and volunteer here and there. You kind of learn as you go and you're trying your best. And I think the population of Latinas with a master's degree or higher is like 8% nationwide. And so, I think about that. And I also think about the responsibility, at least that I feel, just knowing what I've done and to help people along the way so they don't make the same mistakes or take as long as I did to get to where they are. And so those are probably the obstacles that I think I like to bring in. My parents' sacrifice, I don't take for granted, and I want to be able to empower other people, even through their sacrifice, right? What my mom had to give up for me to be here. And so I often will channel that in the work that we do. I did want to speak to the chat question because I know there was some comments that came up about just, going back to work full time, internal or in the office, and how that could be challenging. And I just wanted to say, in general, I think it's important for us to really have a good sense of our values and what's important to us. And no matter what you're doing in your life, if it's work, if it's school, if it's not aligning to your values and how to support you, then you have to make a decision for yourself. And I tell people all the time, I don't want you to leave Caltrans, but if Caltrans isn't lining up with your values, maybe it's spending more time with family. Maybe it's the childcare situation. Maybe it's wanting to be a better mom. You have to do what's best for you. And if we can't meet you in that middle and get that accommodation or work with you along the way, you have to do what's best for you at the end of the day. And thankfully, there's some positions within Caltrans where there is a hybrid telework option. And then there are some positions that are 100% in the field, and we don't have that opportunity to telework. And so I just want to say, ultimately, always lean on your values and what's best for you to help you navigate your decisions.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love that you spoke to that. I know it's kind of a tricky question because, like you said, oftentimes the occupation will dictate the need for the role, right? But yeah, always being true to yourself, true to your values, and yeah, extremely powerful messages there. Thank you so much. Laura, did you want to check the chat for a little, see if there's another question to ask our wonderful panelists?
Yeah, sure. Let me take a look here. So there is a question just asking like how long you've been with Caltrans, and like in this time that you've been with Caltrans, have you seen a significant change to the perceptions of women in your respective fields? Anybody want to take that one?
At Caltrans for about 15 years, and there is a lot of diversity in women at the associate level, but there is still a lot of work to do when you get to the senior management level. So I haven't seen that much change in that area, but I think we're going to start working on it because it is Caltrans value now.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to speak to that one?
Well, I've been with Caltrans for 32 years, a long time. And, when I graduated from college, maybe 12 to 14% of engineering graduates were female. And overall at Caltrans, about 25% of our population is female, right? So as Zulema said, in HR, it's vastly different than the engineering side. So I can't say that I've seen a tremendous increase in 30 plus years as far as female engineers at Caltrans. So in some ways that's disappointing, but like I mentioned previously, we are very fortunate to work, in a state government setting where, we are treated as equals, and we are very fortunate to be where we are. And for me, having moved from the design side, I spent over 25 years working in the office on the design side of the house, and then going to construction was in some ways a shock to the system because it wasn't 12, 14, or 20% women. It was less than 10%. So it was a real eye-opener. And, I had the luxury as the deputy, to create that Women in Construction event, right? I didn't have to ask for anyone's permission. I just did it. So there are lots of other women out there that are not in my position that are trying to do things like I've been able to do, but they just don't have the authority or, the ability to do so. So I think it's really important at this stage in my career to give back as much as possible. I know my assistant is on this WebEx, and, I've got 3 or 4 people that I'm mentoring, right? And it's a big ask on my schedule. But at this point, I feel that's my duty, my obligation to give back to those women who are still coming up in the organization and have many, many years ahead of them.
I love that. I love that you've all have shared like the different experiences that you're all trying to be involved in different groups and like outreach, such as the events that you're attending or, organizing, such as the one that you just did recently, Christy. It's just a matter of doing more outreach and just, sharing the message that there's a space for women in these different areas is super important. Thank you so much. All right, Harriet. So are we on question 2 or 3? I'm like lost with all this great content, all this great conversation.
We're on question 3.
All right, awesome. So that would be me. So I think there was a question like this in the chat I saw in there as well. So if you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self? And anybody want to start with that one, or I can call on somebody? How about Kim?
Okay.
Speaking up.
I can start. One thing that advice that I would give my younger self is develop your voice and learn how to speak up for yourself. Sometimes you just have to be able to go in and speak truth to power. But when you're doing that, you need to make sure that you're confident and you know your value and you're willing to tell people. Because we don't have the ability to meet your needs if you're not able to articulate what those needs are. So make sure you're able to be clear and concise and, willing to stick up for yourself. I think I learned that way too late in my career. I'm definitely an introvert, and so it is hard for me to even be on a panel like this. But I know at this point that we do need to be able to speak up for ourselves and speak up for other women.
Yeah, absolutely. And as an introvert, Kim, you're doing amazing on this panel. We're so excited you're here and sharing your experience. We need more women to come forward, like you said, and just, to speak their truth, share their voice, and to have the courage just to empower other women.
Yes.
Anybody else interested in answering that one? What advice would you give your younger self?
I'll dive in and answer this one. So a lot of people think that I'm like recently graduated college, but I've actually been out of school for a while. So I'm 34. And I would probably tell my younger self, like Kim, I'm an extreme introvert and I don't like talking to people. But I force myself to volunteer and do events like this to stop myself from closing off into a shell and not speaking. Because I can go weeks without speaking to people and I'd be completely fine. So I would tell my younger self, in college or even in high school, just keep volunteering and keep, having a smile and just be willing to listen to people and to take their advice and to really stick with the advice that they're giving you, because 95% of the time, they're not trying to steer you in the wrong direction. They're trying to make something a lot easier for you. And if you, just take that advice and roll with it, you can get through college very smoothly. You can pass all your exams, pass all the tests that you need to take, and get all your license and find the job that really suits you. And if I could tell my younger, no talking self in college, like it's okay to speak to more people than just the people that were in your ASCE chapter or your NSBE chapter, and it's okay to make more friends. And now when I'm in the office, everybody's like, "Oh, you know everybody, Ryan," and I tell them, like, "No, I don't. It's just I volunteer with a few people and they know everybody. So now everybody knows my name." And yeah, I would just encourage myself to talk a little more, and it's okay to put yourself out there more and to be more willing to continue to volunteer.
I love that. And that just speaks to the power of networking, the importance of it, just making those connections with others, giving back by sharing that knowledge that we attain and passing that on to other people, just super rewarding. How about Zulema? Anything you'd like to share on this one, Zulema? What would you share with your younger self?
Yeah, I think my younger self, I would say a few things. I would say that my negative thoughts are not my reality, and really challenge myself with evidence in my life that counters those things, and reminding myself of that, over the course of my life, of things that counter those negative thoughts that possibly try to dissuade me, right, from doing things or saying yes or taking on opportunities. I think I would learn sooner communication styles of being passive, assertive, and aggressive, and reminding myself that passive means I am holding myself back from my own needs. Aggressive means I'm dismissing someone else. And assertive means that I can come into the middle to address my needs and their needs, and how do we come to a conclusion to be successful. And I think those things are something that I wish I would have learned sooner, because I think as women, sometimes we tend to feel like we have to be passive, or that we have to be really aggressive to get something. And I heard Kim earlier when she's like, I got to be aggressive to get my word. And sometimes we have to, right? Like sometimes there is those moments for that. But I think just learning to be assertive, because we have the knowledge, the skill, the desire, the passion, the interest, the value that drives that assertiveness. And that's what we can lean on. And so that's what I would just, folks out there, is just leaning on yourself to know, that negative things try to come in, just let them flow through, counter that with your positive and experiences. We're all resourceful and have so much to contribute, and that, just learning to be assertive with what your needs are. And I think that's what I would want to share.
I like that. Just silencing the negative voices, like you said, and just tuning into, like you're mentioning, all the obstacles you've already overcome, reminding yourself, empowering yourself to keep pushing forward, super important. I think we all have dealt with that at one time or another, and it's probably so much more common than we actually think until we start speaking like we do today to realize how normal this is, and just lifting each other up through that, right? And supporting each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Some really good answers there. Very giving me chills over here. So yeah, great content. All right, so do we want to look at any questions in the chat area? Any more in there?
Sure, there's quite a lot, and there's also some really positive affirmations coming out too. There's one here: claim your space, act like you belong right where you are. Assertiveness is your friend, and like all tools, developing critical skills requires practice. Develop the skills and use. Be fearless. Others nearby have your back. I love. There's a lot of empowerment happening even in the chat from our audience. So thank you so much for sharing those. And Ryan, I find it so funny that you say you would rather not speak to people, when we were actually recommended you from Christina Hisamoto from recruitment because you're such a great recruiter. So the fact that
I find it funny because when I go out to do recruiting, I always bother students who are walking by and don't want to talk, because that was me. Like, I could walk by with the career fair and walk in and out of it within 10 minutes and be like, okay, I went to the career fair, I'm done. I don't want to talk to anybody. So now when I go out to talk to students, I pick on the students that don't like to talk and who look like they're really shy, because I was very shy when I was in school. And I choose to volunteer to do things like this, to break out of my shyness shell. And I kind of see it like Toastmasters. If I can continue to talk to people and help someone break out of their shell as well, then I'm accomplishing a personal goal, and I'm helping someone move forward in their life. Even if they don't end up at Caltrans, but they end up at a job that they truly enjoy and they have a voice for themselves. If I can help someone do that, then I really like the fulfillment that I get out of that. So when I do recruiting, I do like to pick on the students and, point out that one shy person that's just, busybody to class. Like, no, come stop and talk to us, because I need someone to talk to, so I don't have to talk to my old professor over here. Like, come over. So
that's awesome. It's like you're almost tapping into your younger self. Like, this is an opportunity. Maximize this career fair. Like, make a connection. You're like, you're kind of living it. That's super cool. I love it. There's a lot of great questions. Let me see. There's one back here. Okay, so this is interesting because we're about to go into a leadership question. But how, as general staff, do we communicate with leadership about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in hiring and retention? So I feel as though Caltrans as a whole is really doing a lot from the executive level to promote this. There's a lot of resources that exist, but is there anything you will do within your own teams that maybe you could speak to this? And I want to take that one.
I can speak to it a little bit.
Excellent.
So,
the DEI task force.
Yeah, exactly. So that is what we developed, and it's we have quite a few senior managers in there, but we also have as a sponsor one of our deputies. So, she's a sponsor. And then once we, get our presentations together, because what we want to first do is, make sure that people understand what DEI is, answer any questions. But we are doing presentations to our executive management to make sure that we are in alignment. And, our executive management are doing things as well. Um, as I said before, we have the people first goal. So that's really about lifting everybody up, making sure that we include everybody in our own groups. I make sure that, just like she was saying earlier about, not picking on someone, but trying to pull out information from people who don't necessarily like to talk all the time. So, we all have our talkers, and then those people who can contribute, but, are uncomfortable speaking up. So we make sure that we are trying to listen to all the voices. Recently, for my group, we put together an ethos, which is basically the culture that we wanted our group to be. And, we made sure that everyone came in and contribute to what our ethos is. And it's really just about making sure that we are listening to each other, respecting each other. Um, some people wanted to make sure that we are transparent and that we're getting information from the top and it's flowing down to the bottom. But within that, we just made sure that everyone, we did it in an all staff meeting, that everyone came in and put what their ethos was.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, it's more common than you might think throughout Caltrans. If the person who asked the question, if you're looking for something relating to equity, there are equity task force, and we obviously have our offices, and there's so many resources committed to a more equitable workforce. So we are doing a lot of things. I know Sulema are involved in leadership development, workforce development. There's a lot being done to encourage an extremely equitable approach to hiring and retention, and providing opportunities for everyone in an equitable, respectively equitable way. So I love that you are leading that effort, Kim. Really commend you for that, and especially coming up with a strong ethos. That's very powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. And I also wanted to mention that we do have a equity program here in District 4 as well. So within IT, we partner with the District 4 equity program as well, and they're doing a lot of things, a lot of outreach to students, and just trying to make sure that we have some diversity in this district. And of course, we do.
Love it. Love it. Well, our final question from us, and then there are a few more I want to get to in the chat, is about leadership. So leadership, what makes a great leader, and why do we need more women in leadership? And I'm going to start with Sulema.
Well, it's a big question. I think for me, I've been lucky with Caltrans, and having my career in 10 years, I've had a lot of really amazing supervisors and leaders and managers who've shown me something different than I had seen in the past. And the biggest thing I think that I've seen and I try to put into practice myself is, one is leading with empathy. That we're all humans and holistic, bring in different things, and it's not just showing up to work, it's your whole self. And so I think leading with empathy, but also being authentic and having integrity with what we say and what we do. And I always say, you can't just talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. So if you say you need to do, and then being vulnerable, because we're in these positions and we're supposed to be the knowers of all the things. And I always think the team, we need to lean on our teams to help us execute the goals. And so being vulnerable with team I think is also really important to show our human side, and that we're all just trying our best. Ultimately, we're all just trying our best with the end goal to uplift or produce something together, or a project or whatever it might be. And so I think for me, it's empathy, leading with my heart when I can, being transparent, being authentic, and having integrity with what I do. And then having fun. Having fun to me is really important, because we are committing to this project, whatever it might be, and we spend all this time together, that we should have joy and fun in the work that we do. So those are the biggest things. And to the second part of that question was why women in leaders. And I think it's just because we have something to contribute. And we are, although have a minority in terms of representation of maybe in leadership positions, we're not a minority in terms of, the world, the country, the state, and the work that we do. And so I think it's just having our voices heard and our experiences lifted.
Great words. Great words. Thank you, Sulema. Yes, that's absolutely so true. And as always, very inspiring. Sulema has worked in this space for a long time in terms of empowerment, leadership, development. And so really just knowing your worth and pushing that forward as a leader in your own right, whether you're in a leadership classification or not, you are a leader in your own right. So I love that. Thank you, Sulema. Ryan, how about you? What makes a great leader, and why do we need more women in leadership?
I think what makes a great leader is someone that, like Zulema had mentioned, someone that has done the role that you are currently in, and they know exactly what you're going through. So to me, a good leader is someone that has done your role, but also someone that is encouraging you and everybody who works under them to go explore and continue learning. I love learning, and I love watching Science Channel and History Channel and things like that. So if I can continue learning and I have a person in a leadership role that is encouraging me to learn and, never stop learning or asking questions or doing research, I find that to be the best leadership role in my situation and how I function properly. Because if I see that my supervisor or my leaders are constantly wanting to learn, then it gets me excited. Like, oh, they want to learn something new, I can learn something too. And, if we have our next staff meeting, someone can bring a random new comment to the staff meeting that we all learned. So it's a great opportunity to learn and to not only learn, but teach people. And why we need more women to have a good leadership role is, I think, engineering is hard enough as it is. And to get into that workforce and to see that there aren't that many women in the leadership role, it's really nice to see. So when I go out to do recruiting, I always tell the female students, I'm not the only person sitting in the office that is a woman and who's in charge. I can look up to people. I can see that in the office, and not every office has that. I know. I've had previous jobs where I was the only woman on the floor, and now I can say I'm not the only woman on the floor, and there are a lot of women leaders here at Caltrans, and I really appreciate that. So I can directly tell students, or even people who are interested off the street who just want to switch career paths, that it's not just women in HR, for example. There are women in engineering, and there are a lot of leadership roles. And you just have to find that one that's willing to step up and do it. And there are a lot of great women here at Caltrans.
Love that. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, it's almost like having someone to look up to that emulates you, right? You're like you said, if they're wanting to learn, I want to learn. Someone that's really taking the bull by the horn, so to speak, and let's do this together. So I love that. And yeah, I'm just like you with being able to see women in those leadership spaces. It's oh yeah, that could be me one day, it's inspiring. Yeah. And it's seeing yourself in these positions.
Yeah,
that's what exactly. It's all about. No matter where you come from, it's wonderful. So thank you. Great insight. Christy, let's tap you for this question. So why do we need more women leaders, and what makes a great leader?
So, the very first thing that came to mind is a quote from Billie Jean King. So she was, a fantastic tennis player, I'm aging myself now, but she said, if you can see it, you can be it, right? So the vast majority of, I've seen some polls of women, college and high school age, where the majority have never seen women in specific roles. Maybe it's doctors, lawyers, engineers. So for me, it's really important that people can see what maybe they can be someday. And women bring a different perspective. Like I talked about before, we are different. We have different life experiences. We think differently. We approach problem solving differently. And it's really, I think, a disadvantage to any organization, any company that doesn't see the value in the diversity that women bring to the table. And as far as qualities, I pride myself in being a good listener, because I'll say I'm at least the third introvert here. So I have really good listening skills, because as Ryan said, I'm that person that's walking by the table, but it's not that, I'm not interested, but I'm listening. I'm taking it all in, and I listen before I speak, right? I don't speak for the sake of just being heard and hearing myself talk. So I think being a good listener and also having self-awareness and having emotional intelligence. A lot of the things that I do today, I would not, choose necessarily to attend events or speak at various, like groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, things of that nature. But I do it because I know I need to be seen, right? And I know other people need to see me in that role. So it's really important that, I think going back to an earlier discussion, we need to leverage our male counterparts as well, right? They can be some of our strongest advocates as well. And I've been fortunate to have both male and female supervisors that really encouraged me and pushed me. And I would not be in this position, if it weren't for men supporting my career path and pushing me into positions that I didn't think I was ready for. So yes, just give us a chance, and we will prove you wrong.
Love it. Love it. I especially love your quote that you mentioned is, if you can see it, you can be it. And that's so true. Like you said about attending the events, like women, everyone wants to see this representation. So I really applaud you for prioritizing that. And I also loved how you spoke about self-awareness and emotional intelligence from a leadership perspective. That is so huge, to be able to own mistakes, to be able to know how to communicate with someone. And Sulema, you mentioned empathy is such huge leadership qualities. So thank you for mentioning those, and thank you for really living that. So thank you, Christy. Kim, last but not least, what are your thoughts?
I would say the reason we need women in leadership is, kind of like my CT Talk advice, that the representation matters. It matters that we see women and that we see people of color. And, it matters that we're in the right places and we're sitting at the table and we have a voice when we are at that table. I know so many times we see a company putting something out and it's just like, oh, are they tone deaf? They obviously didn't have any women or people of color on the decision-making table. So I just think it's so important that we have women and people of color at all levels. And in terms of qualities, the qualities that I think is probably most important is being willing to, like I said, even though I'm, not that person who likes to talk all the time, but being willing to pay it forward. Whether or not we do that by being a mentor, whether or not we do that with our staff that we have, but be willing to help other women and, just have that as a spirit that, hey, I'm open, come talk to me if you need to talk. I'm willing, I'm here for you, and I'm here to support you.
Love it. Love it. You all have shared such incredible leadership attributes, and you're really walking the talk in terms of empowerment. So really, thank you so much for all these wonderful, wonderful insights. We're lucky enough today, being that we started a little bit earlier than usual, our panelists have agreed to stay a little bit longer. So I know we're coming up to 5 minutes to the hour, but we would like to get to as many of these audience questions as possible. So if you want to hang out with us, quick grab your coffee and continue on, because we want to continue this conversation for a little bit longer. So just a little sneak, because we're empowering you to get your questions in. So get your questions in for us. But with that, let's dive into the chat. Laura, did you see any burning questions that you wanted to propose to us?
Yeah. Before I ask the next question, I did put some links in the chat in case you do need to leave. I did just put in the next registration link for CT Talks episode 8. That's in there if you need to leave. And also links to connect with these amazing ladies on LinkedIn. They have provided their links there as well. And the Caltrans LinkedIn page. Let's see. I saw some early back. Let me see if I can find them.
I will say as well, just Laura, while you were looking for the question, we talked a lot about representation matters and, seeing yourself. Laura mentioned LinkedIn, and if you're not following Caltrans on LinkedIn, throughout this entire month in honor of Women's History Month, we did feature a lot of transportation females who have really made some pivotal roles, pivotal moves in the transportation field. And we also do weekly employee spotlights, which spotlight each of our, not each of our individuals, but 22,000 people, but a nice selection of our Caltrans staff. And so you can really get a sense of what it's like here, the type of people that are here. And it's really a wonderful insight into who we have here and who you could potentially work with, or someone that you might know, for those of you that are here within Caltrans. So we highly encourage you to, if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. Talk about a networking opportunity. There's been a few questions about, overcoming challenges with being a female in the workspace. And that's definitely somewhere where you can chat with someone and get to know people that you might not necessarily have the opportunity to meet. So we definitely implore you to come on to LinkedIn and give Caltrans a like. And we put out some really good, interesting content. So just a little plug for the LinkedIn there, Laura. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
Of course. Yeah, there's a lot of great comments in the chat for our panelists, so you'll definitely have to look at that later. A lot of good support there. But there's a couple of questions I think that are through the chat there, and one of them is, as a woman, we have a lot of duties out of work. How do you balance work and life? Anybody would like to take that question? Okay, I'm gonna call on somebody. So I'm looking at Savannah with her big smile on her face. So.
I was going to hear back from those who in the room who've been in Caltrans longer, but I will say, I'm a newer mom. I have a 4-year-old son. He's about to be 5. That's new to me, so don't judge me. And what I was going to say is just that, earlier, Christy, you talked about like self-regulation and emotional intelligence. And I think that those things help me and are helping me with even just life balance. And that means that when the clock ends at whatever time I shut my laptop, and that means setting boundaries for myself of, hey, I'm going to close today at 5:30 and I'm not going to look at my phone later on or open up my laptop, that I'm saying what is happening in my life today at work that I need to leave in the space and not take to my family or to my friends or wherever it is that I'm going. Filling your cup, right? Like what brings you joy? And sometimes joy looks like a shower. Sometimes joy looks like a cup of tea, a nice coffee, my favorite coffee with frothed milk. Sometimes that means I force myself to read 10 minutes in a book of not work related anything. That's just for fun for me. But it's really having to be proactive to make time for those things. And it's not easy. I'm not great at it. I work at it all the time. But I think just to, again, normalize, right, that is something that we may be challenged with, and that I hope I hope that I continue to be better at it, and just giving myself those things, right? Work is something that I do love and I do enjoy, and I'm grateful to be in a job that I can say that about, but it's not 100% going to fill my cup, right? So just making sure that I'm tapping into painting or going to a dance class or going to the Kings game with my family and having a good time, and that I'm making sure that I'm putting that at the forefront for me is important. And sometimes it's a harder lesson, because you'll realize when you're not in a great place, oh, I'm putting myself at the very end of this. And in order for us to be good leaders, good employees, good everything, we have to put ourselves first. And that's a hard thing. I think as women, we often don't get that encouragement, that message from society, cultural, whatever it might be. And so just really learning to listen to yourself of what is it that you need. Nobody else, just you.
Yeah, I like that. Just balancing, juggling everything and just trying to remember yourself, and so that, that you're not burning out, that you're re-energizing and coming back to work again, refreshed, because you take the time for yourself. Absolutely. Anybody else like to speak on that one?
Friends, I've had a much better experience with balancing work life. At my previous job, we were doing 20 plus hours of overtime every week. And now here at Caltrans, when my time is up, I'm like, oh, phone's going off, computer's going off, I can handle it tomorrow. It's nothing that will, stress me out. Yes, there are the days where I stay on a little later just because I want to finish something before I forget, or, the day ends. I'm just determined to finish this one little item. But I definitely have, like Zulima mentioned, I set a boundary, and it's not going to Kings games. It's probably going to Clipper games or Laker games, since I'm in D7. But I definitely will take advantage of, when I am in the office, I'll even set that boundary where I try not to let myself eat at my desk for lunch. And I try to at least go downstairs to the cafeteria or go for a walk if my coworkers come by and say, like, hey, we're going for a walk. And I feel like, oh, I don't really want to, but I will, just to give my brain that disconnection. And, being out in the sun for 10 minutes will just brighten my day, or to get a good laugh in. So it's definitely a lot better here at Caltrans. And I can say that my work-life balance has improved a lot more since I've been here. And, I have made friends with a lot of my coworkers. So we'll be talking about work stuff, and then at 5 o'clock, we end up switching to our personal phones and texting like, hey, did you watch the Laker game? Oh, log on so we can, all talk to each other. So it's been a really good experience, and I have a lot better work-life balance here.
I love that. Yeah. It's just like you said, connecting with our friends and colleagues and reminding each other to take that time for ourselves, and just, creating those boundaries. Very important. Anybody else would like to add?
I think it's also really important to lead by example, right? So being in construction, I could probably text and email my staff 24/7, right? Because there's work going on every night, every weekend. But if I do that, right, there's an expectation that you need to respond. So I feel like I need to have self-discipline and not do that unless it's an emergency or something urgent, right? So I purposefully do not contact my employees after hours unless I have to, because I don't want them chained to their devices thinking that they need to respond at 11 o'clock at night or 2 a.m. in the morning. So we have to do a better job of clarifying our expectations and respecting everyone's free time, their personal life, because there is more to life than just working. And it's not right for executives or supervisors to encroach on employees' time unless it's a very urgent need. So I think, I would suggest that, if you find yourself in a situation where that's happening, that maybe you have a discussion with that supervisor, or you elevate that issue and just ask the question, you know, when you email me at 10 o'clock at night, what's the expectation? Is it something that, like Ryan said, I just need to get it done and out? Or, you know, there's also a feature in Outlook, for those of you that use Outlook, you can actually delay the send, right? So you could write your email at 2 a.m. if you want and just have it send at 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning. So think of that as well.
Absolutely, very important insights and sharing, just respecting others' time and their boundaries and setting that example. How about for you, Kim?
For that one, I would say that learning to set those boundaries is probably what's most important because, like Christy, IT is 24/7. You know, something can happen in the middle of the night. Our network in a field office goes down. So we do have to make sure that, okay, call me when there's an emergency, but we also have people, you know, we have man our phones 24/7. We have people calling, you know, I need to reset my password. Well, we might have to reset your password in the morning because that's not an emergency. So, you know, it just kind of depends on what it is, but setting those boundaries that I once had, you know, somebody that would call me day and night just to chit chat. And I did eventually have to learn to be like, no, I'm with my family at this period of time. So, you know, we'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah, awesome. All these are all just great examples of advice of and ideas of how we can balance the work life and keeping ourselves re-energized for work and not burning out. Thank you all. Harriet, are there any other questions in chat that you see? You want to
And a couple around like the negative response, so like women kind of stepping up. So there's one kind of interesting question that said some gender biased adjectives for working women are combative, bossy, emotional, you know, just these negative connotations. So how can women respond to these descriptors? I know we were talking about like it's not bossy, it's assertive. Like let's change some of this bias. But how would you all respond to this? Would anyone like to take that one?
Yeah, I can say that, you know, even today when we were having a conversation and I used the word that, oh, sometimes I have to be aggressive. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I was like, ah, you know, women have that connotation of being aggressive sometimes. And I didn't really mean that. It was more about being assertive. That's probably a better word. So, yeah, we sometimes get the reputation of, being not so nice, even though our male counterparts can say and do the same thing. So, you know, part of our emotional intelligence is being able to watch that and kind of control ourselves, you know, especially as a leader.
Can I add, you know, yes to what Kim said, and earlier to support what Christy said about that self-regulation and self-awareness. I think if a comment is being made, it's like let's hear what it is. Is there truth behind it? Let me have some self-awareness. Did I say something? Did I do something? Here's my chance to evaluate and think. And if there's action there for you to do something differently or say or explain or share, that you do it. But that sometimes the comments that are being made are a reflection of someone else and whatever they're going through. And I think that it's also important that we make space for kind of both. Like, what can I be accountable for? And what am I, you know, self-awareness for me, but what also could be going on for that person that they feel that is the way to describe me. And sometimes it's about accountability and the accountability that we have as leaders to who we need to be accountable for, right? So we're trying to just get the project through. And so I think it's important that that we make space for that self-regulation, that self-awareness, but also to invite that person like, well, let's talk about why you think I'm bossy or why you think I'm this. And maybe we can find out what else is going on there that could be, you know, pushing these comments.
Definitely. There's definitely, you need to assess each situation, right? And I think it just speaks again to the empathy and the emotional intelligence that we've been speaking about today, and really addressing each situation individually, but ultimately having that self-awareness and knowing when you're making the right decision, no matter what someone else says. It's like, be true to yourself. That's what we've it's been a great theme throughout today. Thank you both for your insights on that. Did Ryan or Christy, did you want to touch on that one?
I would say, unfortunately, there was a question about highs and lows, and some of the worst experience, or I don't want to say name calling, but criticism have come from other women, right? Which is very unfortunate. We really need to support each other, right? I don't necessarily, need to be your best friend, but I don't think we need to attack each other or break each other down. Of course, we're all competitive. We wouldn't be here if we weren't to some level, but we need to support one another. And while maybe men are saying, you're, bossy or you're aggressive, unfortunately, I found that the women are the ones that actually have come out and said it to me, right? And that's just not, that's not helpful. We need to stick together and support each other. And that, like I said, there was a question about highs and lows, and that came to mind when I was thinking of lows, right? When that's occurred, surprisingly, it came from another, a woman. So.
Yeah, it's important to note, whether it's for men or for women, it's like personalities, right? Like, I think that comes to the core of it is like, you can be the nicest or no matter what your gender, right? Like, people's personality is what's going to shine through. So I think trying to cultivate an environment, a working environment, just a life environment where everyone feels accepted and feels there's compassion towards one another, and that we do feel like we can be ourselves. That's the biggest thing. Oftentimes people are just nasty. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's just nasty people. I don't care who you are. And so and I think, so let me make that, what's true to your values. If working alongside this person, working for this person is not working for you or aligning with your values, it's time to move on. And so sometimes the thing can be helped, sometimes they cannot. So finding a healthy work environment, our lives are too precious to not be happy in where we work. And so I think you all have spoken so much to empowerment today. I think we'll call it there. There's a couple more. Did any of you see a question in there that you really wanted to get to? I want to be respectful of your time. Yeah.
I have a question about, do we have our own board of advisors? And when I read that, I was like, I love this question because I said earlier, I'm first generation, navigating life in this country, was like really on my own. I mean, my parents loved me and provided and gave me the things, but there's just things I didn't know. And so, I think I learned this also later in life, but, ask people want to mentor people all the time, and it's not a formal thing. It can just be something that you do. One of my professors from grad school, who I loved learning from her, and I just kept the relationship and nurturing relationships with just a simple, hey, how are you? I hope you're doing well. It can be an email, it can be a LinkedIn message, it can be a phone call, a text, whatever it might be, but that you're just continuing to build those relationships. And even though I graduated 7 years ago, or I forget how long it's been now, I still see that person, and they're still my mentor. They're still someone I talk to on a monthly basis, and I share ideas from work, and they give me ideas, and we talk. I have a therapist for my mental health that I've been working with also for the last 5-6 years, just to help me with navigating life, in the same ways that we eat food that's good for us, or we go outside to work out, or go to the gym to exercise. Once you get that place, you don't just start eating poorly again, or you don't just stop working out, right? You have to maintain. And so even though my mental health has vastly improved, I do my maintenance therapy to help me with life transitions, with hard decisions, with those lows that sometimes come in. And I use that person to help me navigate, and then of course there's my circle of family and friends that I can lean on and support too, that help me as well. there was a question about finances. I know nothing about finances, but guess what? I'm going to reach out to the experts. So like talk to people who are doing things that you want to do and ask them how they got there, because I'm pretty sure they're willing to share insight on what they've used to help them get to be successful and where they are. And again, people like to help others. So don't be afraid to ask. So if you have any questions for me, send me a LinkedIn.
With you. Having a board of advisors. So when I was in college, being a member of NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, we always joked like, oh, who's your personal board of advisors? But now thinking back, we weren't really joking when we talked about it. So I have a handful of mentors that I met in college who I still talk to today and who are texting me because they are on the call and they're like, you're doing a great job, Ryan. And I was like, oh gosh, don't text me. You're going to make me smile. And they always say like, oh, you should go, reach out and do this event, volunteer to do this event. So I definitely still stay in contact with all of them. And it's a range of people who I've met through different, career fairs, who are other recruiters, people who I met through school and, family friends, people who I met just out and about at a restaurant who we just got talking to, and now we're good friends. And it's always good to have a list of people that you can go and ask any type of question to, and they can give you, their perspective or another perspective that they've heard of. And just to have that advice or that, like Zulima mentioned, that chance to talk to someone just to express what's going on in your head is always a great thing. To keep everything bottled up and inside, it's not good for anybody. So to have a board of people that you can just go and talk to, laugh with, you can even sit in silence with, just to have that there is great.
So true. That's so true. Yeah, and like you said, you've got these people from college, from your different experiences, and so hopefully everyone, like Christy and Kim, do you feel you've got a board of advisors that you can lean on?
Very fortunate. So my brother's also a civil engineer working in transportation and specifically in construction industry on the private side. So he's one of my advisors, sounding board. And then my husband used to be a heavy equipment operator in the construction field. So when it comes to, hey, can we do this in the field? What kind of equipment would you use? He's been a great advisor. And now he's a CPA. So I have my own built-in financial advisor. So I think, like Zulima said, it's really important to, pay attention to your mental health and have those go-to people that can really advise you and maybe tell you things that you don't want to hear also, right? Those people that can be honest with you to keep you in check. So that's really important.
Love it. Love it. And also I love how your husband's had a complete shift in career. That's amazing. He must have so many perspectives. Wow. Yeah, definitely important. How about you, Kim? Who would you say?
Okay, we're running over, so I'll keep it really short.
Okay,
But
yeah.
absolutely. I have a group of friends or mentors that I go to and able to talk to when I have questions, whether it's personal or work related. And, I just also want to make sure that we are the board for somebody else. So, we're helping our family and friends, get to the next level.
Absolutely.
So definitely I have that group that I go and talk to. I think the big thing is to understand the difference between a mentor that's helping you in life and, and teaching you how to navigate life and be a better person and, learn how to, again, that emotional intelligence. And then, a mentor that's at work that's kind of advocating for you. You've proven to that person that you are ready for the next step and they're there helping you and advocating for you.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah, it's really people advocating, like you said, it's that strength in numbers, and to have that validation from someone else oftentimes is such a huge thing. I know I have my truth tellers, right? I have my big up people, and then I have my truth tellers. And be like, maybe that wasn't the best decision on your part. It's like, fine. Like, okay, like I respect your opinion enough that I'm going to listen to you. So yeah, really wonderful question to finish on. Thank you for pointing that one out, Sulama. It's so important that we do have that board of people that are going to empower us, that are going to inspire us, and that are going to really listen. And Kim had shared this great graphic, which I want to make sure I have a chance for those of you that are still on the line. You know, let's celebrate all women. And it says young women, inspiring women, courageous, radiant, tenacious, elderly, women who need our hand, women who never give up, girls growing up to be women and pioneering women. Let's just celebrate all women, right? And this was such an honor to host this event today. And we got through so many wonderful topics. I can't thank you all enough for your insights, for sharing your time with us, sharing your experiences, and just providing such an inspiring platform for everyone participating today. So thank you. Thank you so much.
And one thing I want to leave people with, I heard someone tell me a long time ago, as women, keep your chin up and don't let your crown slip. You're a queen.
Love it. We're going to add that into the email when we send it out. Like,
yeah, we need that.
I love it. So thank you all for participating today. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for all the love coming in. This love has been throughout the webinar, so it just shows how powerful a topic this is. So thank you again. Again, for those of you still tuning in, we have our episode 8, which is next month, which is going to be about Caltrans internships and volunteer opportunities. And we're going to have our representatives from both of those programs speaking about those opportunities. So if you know any young individuals who are looking to get into Caltrans, this is a great one to share with them, because it's going to talk about the process, how they can get in, and just some experiences that they might be able to get a chance to be a part of. And then when this wonderful webinar closes, there will be a very short feedback survey. If you could take the time to give us your feedback, we would love to hear it, to continue improving on these sessions. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, please feel free to contact us at dhr.communications@dot.ca.gov. But with that, I know we're extremely running over, so I will be very brief and just thank you all again. You've really empowered me and inspired me today. Laura and I were so thrilled to bring this topic to life. So thank you for living up to the expectations and more. It's been a real pleasure today. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in the next webinar.